In OpenClaw 528, the core runtime removed a default reason stripping pass that previously compensated for missing sanitized text in channel plugins. QQBot lacked a sanitized text hook in its outbound config. Without the removed default pass, raw thinking blocks leaked into channel replies. Users would see internal agent monologue instead of just the final answer. Who it affects: users of QQBot with reasoning models Minimax M3, thinking default medium. The issue was a regression from 512 where reasoning was poorly hidden. Who it affects: users of QQBot with reasoning models, for example, Minimax M3 and thinking default medium. The issue was a regression from 512 where reasoning was properly hidden. Why QQBot specifically? Unlike Discord and Telegram, which have sanitized text in their plugin configs, QQBot's outbound config did not include one. The 528 rewrite of the reply pipeline no longer falls back to a default sanitizer for such channels. Security implication. The issue is labeled Impact Security, as internal reasoning may include tool call details, code execution logs, or security considerations that shouldn't be visible to end users. This fix restores QQBot's behavior to match other channels by stripping reasoning scaffolding before native delivery. This fix resolves a critical bug where MCP tools returning non-image content like resource link, audio, or generic resource blocks were incorrectly converted into malformed image blocks by the Anthropic provider. These invalid image blocks, missing required data and media type, triggered HTTP 400 errors from Anthropic's API. Worse, once injected into conversation history, every subsequent request in that session also failed, effectively poisoning the session until manual reset. This fix ensures only valid image blocks with actual data and MIME type are sent as images. All other MCP content types are safely coerced into text before being sent to Anthropic. Resource link goes to title, name, or URI. Resource goes to resource.txt or resource.uri. Audio goes to a descriptive placeholder like audio MIME. Unknown types go to JSON stringified fallback. This matches how OpenClaw already handles similar content elsewhere in the runtimes and prevents session-breaking errors when using MCP tools. For example, Superhuman Mail's get attachment returning docx or PDF links. Users relying on MCP integrations will see more reliable tool results and fewer unexpected 400s. This fix ensures that extended thinking sessions with Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4.6 recover automatically after a gateway restart or prompt cache expiry. Previously, they would fail permanently. When a session includes tool calls that generate thinking blocks, these blocks contain cryptographic signatures. If the gateway restarts or Anthropic's prompt cache expires, replaying the session history causes signature validation errors. Before this change, the session was stuck. Every new message failed instantly with invalid signature in thinking block, and the only fix was manually deleting the session file, losing all context. The fix modifies how streaming starts. The stream now waits for a message start event before sending the first chunk. That delay lets the wrap Anthropic stream with recovery handler detect the signature error and trigger its built-in retry logic, which strips the problematic thinking blocks and resends the request. This request path was already in the codebase, but wasn't being used for direct Anthropic calls on Sonnet 4.6. Users with agents using Thinking Level High or Thinking Adaptive will see sessions survive gateway restarts and cache evictions without a data loss or manual intervention. This update makes parallel search a fully supported, bundled web search provider in OpenClaw. No extra setup needed to try it. If you don't configure another web search provider, OpenClaw now defaults to parallel search, free tier, so web search works out of the box. Key improvements. API key discovery. You can set parallel API key or plugins.entries.parallel.config.websearch.api key to enable the paid tier. Guarded endpoints and cache-safe session IDs. Requests use secure, isolated session handling. critical for multi-user or production deployments where session leakage or caching conflicts could leak data. Onboarding picker support. The OpenClaw onboard wizard now lists Parallel as a web search option, guiding new users through setup. Docs. Full configuration and usage guidance is now published. Who cares? Teams using OpenClaw for internal tools, customer support bots, or research assistants benefit from reliable, no-config web search and can upgrade to Parallel's paid API when needed. The cache-safe session handling is especially valuable in shared or high-volume deployments. This fix restores Google Vertex AI functionality for users relying on application default credentials, ADC, via environment variables like Google Application Credentials. In versions 2026.5.28 and 2026.6.1, the provider failed at runtime with model not found, even though the model appeared in OpenClaw models list, and direct Vertex API calls succeeded with the same credentials. The root cause was a broken environment variable identity check during runtime model resolution. Specifically, the provider couldn't detect ADC credentials when the environment's object was a spread copy rather than the original process.env. This issue affected only users with authorized user ADC, for example, from gcloud auth application default login, and caused all agent requests to fail, forcing either a downgrade or costly fallback to paid providers. The fix ensures the provider correctly identifies ADC credentials at runtime, restoring static catalog rows and model resolution reliability. This release fixes 3 matrix-specific gaps that previously made voice and threading unreliable. 1. Voice notes now pre-flight before mention gating. In rooms where agents only respond to mentions, require mention true, voice messages that say the bot's name, for example, @bot summarize this, now trigger the agent correctly. The transcript is generated first, then used to evaluate mention rules so users don't need to type the name explicitly. This brings Matrix in line with Discord. Telegram, and other channels. 2. Thread reads and replies are preserved through pagination. Matrix Pagination API previously dropped context for replies and threads. Now OpenClaw uses matrix relations to keep thread continuity across paginated events, so replies stay attached to the original message even as older events are fetched. 3. QA coverage for voice and thread flows. New automated test scenarios, matrix voice star or matrix thread star, validate end-to-end voice transcription, mention gating, and reply threading. This ensures future updates don't regress these critical user paths. This update makes 2 key improvements to OpenClaw's reliability. 1. Auth profiles are now stored in SQLite instead of JSON files. This makes them more durable and consistent across restarts. If you have legacy authprofiles.json or authstate.json files, OpenClaw Doctor Fix will migrate them into SQLite and keep backups. This matters because auth profiles are pinned per session to keep provider caches warm. Losing them on restart would force reauthentication and slow down model probing. 2. Official npm plugin installs now keep trusted version pins, and pre-release fallback integrity checks no longer carry stale integrity data forward. When OpenClaw falls back to an older stable version, for example, due to API version constraints, it now validates integrity fresh each time instead of reusing a cached hash from a previous install. This prevents corrupted or mismatched plugin code from sneaking in during version downgrades. In short, fewer auth hiccups after restarts and safer, more predictable plugin installs, especially when OpenClaw needs to pick a compatible, older version of a plugin. This fix addresses a disruptive bug where the macOS app in node mode would repeatedly log connected to gateway every 2 to 3 seconds, even while the connection was stable and no actual reconnection occurred. According to the issue, this caused unnecessary session churn and could trigger secondary issues like pairing failures or challenge errors, even though the underlying connection remained healthy. The root cause was a logic flaw in MacNode Mode Coordinator.swift that failed to properly check whether a reconnection was truly needed before initiating one. Specifically, the code would reattempt connection without verifying that the existing session was still active, leading to repeated connected logs from the same process ID without corresponding disconnect or tick missed events. Stability reduces spurious session resets that could interrupt long-running node operations. Clarity eliminates misleading log noise, making real issues easier to diagnose. Reliability prevents cascading problems like pairing churn that stem from false reconnects. Users running macOS Node mode with remote WSS gateways will notice fewer unexpected disconnections and cleaner diagnostics, especially during extended sessions. Cron jobs migrate safely during upgrades. Legacy cron stores like jobs.json are now migrated during OpenClaw Doctor pre-flight checks, not silently wiped. If you upgrade and see missing cron jobs, run OpenClaw Doctor fix to import them into SQLite and preserve backups as .migrated files. Service-env placeholders no longer hide secrets. Placeholders like *** no longer mask real secrets in home.openclaw service-env. If Minimax API key or others is set in .env, gateway install force now exports it correctly, preventing startup crashes. WhatsApp accounts tear down cleanly on disable. Setting accounts.name.enabled false now stops the WhatsApp session immediately via socket close, stops inbound processing, and keeps credentials on disk. No gateway restart needed. Previously, the session kept running and accepting messages. WhatsApp startup waits are bounded. Connection timeouts are now enforced, preventing indefinite hangs during WhatsApp provider initialization on flaky networks. Who cares? Anyone upgrading cron-heavy setups avoid data loss. Users relying on enabled faults to soft disable WhatsApp without losing sessions. Anyone using gateway install force with managed environment keys like Minimax API key